to be with you all today. We're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Inter-American Democratic Charter. It's a collective commitment and unique throughout the world, a document that's of an international legal instrument. We know that the work on behalf of democracy never ends. If we're going to work, it's an ongoing process to improve, perfect it, make it more efficient. It evolves. So we are commemorating the 20th anniversary of the Charter. We remember that there are many threats to democracy in the Americas. There's tendency of concentration of power and greater power of legislative branches and or less power, and attacks of the independence of the judiciary. The OAS is the political forum par excellence of the Americas, where we discuss these issues. The strengthening of democracy, the Inter-American Democratic Charter has always been and should be the place to do so, and the instrument to do so. And the Charter came about when there was lots of authoritarianism in the region, and it was born as a result. It was designed as a defense against the unconstitutional attacks against democratically elected governments, and often leaders they depart from democratic practices, and this is an essential point. Many people who come into power become ungrateful to the democracies that brought them to power, and they don't act consistent with democratic principles. But the principles of the Democratic Charter and the principles of democracy are based on separation of and independence of the powers of government, are based on exercise of power under rule of law. Most of the time, power cannot be just co-opted under these principles, of course. The COVID-19 pandemic has hit many countries of our region very hard, and have led to and have revealed underlying problems, or structural problems, that is. And so it's hit us quite hard, seeing inequality come to the fore, poverty that exists in the hemisphere. Also, issues linked to separation of powers and freedom of the press and corruption as well have been brought to the forefront as a result of the pandemic, and also centralization of power, concentration of power in the decision-making process has also been a result. And this jeopardizes legitimacy that was so hard earned in our hemisphere. So we have to address all of these principles in the Charter to prevent these happening. So we have to defend the freedom of press, for example, freedom of expression, transparency, uprightness in public administration, and access to information. I call on the electoral observation missions to contribute to upholding the principles of the Democratic Charter. And this year, Article 17 has been applied on 2 instances. We must also point out that the lack of transparency in the use of public resources and corruption in government have increased, and as has mistrust in the government. And this creates dissolution in democracy. This is one of the causes of the weakening of democratic governments in our hemisphere. Transparency, accountability. This is essential for democratic governments and overseeing of the problems and solving them. And so citizens have to be better informed. There must be accountability and transparency, otherwise it cannot be properly informed. Throughout the hemisphere, we're in a state of alert in this regard, given recent events where the separation of powers has been and the independence of the judiciary are now priorities to uphold, with a commitment of leading the vis-a-vis corruption was served to make the judiciary more independent based on universal principles that are applicable. And the CAGP has talked about the role of the Democratic Charter and in the process of the summits. This is an initiative to strengthen the Charter should move forward in interpreting independent judiciaries and respect for constitutions to enforce emergency to buttress emergency powers, but without this being authoritarianism. The Charter is a solution that, through putting together a plan of action which is designed to help the implementation of the democratic Inter-American Democratic Charter. The Inter-American Democratic Charter is a strong legal document at the constitutional level throughout the Americas. It's very compelling and powerful. We can't blame the Charter for the authoritarian tendencies here. It would be a big mistake. It's obviously this is not what should be done. The path we should follow is to accept that we have commitments, each and every country does, to each of the peoples of the Americas and the General Secretariat of the OAS to promote and defend democracy. Thank you very much, James, for this opportunity to speak.